I was catching up with a friend recently, and they were telling me about a realization they'd had about someone important in their life. They had become aware that this person was doing or saying things that contradicted their idea of them and were grounds for feelings of betrayal. They trusted this person. They took them at their word, believed that they were who they said they were, and gave them the benefit of the doubt whenever their actions did not seem to match their spoken intentions or values. When this assumption of good faith was finally challenged and broken, they said they felt foolish. They reflected that others around them seemed to already know what they had only just realized, and they wondered aloud about it in a way that seemed to me to say, "What's wrong with me?" or "What does this say about me?" Like they should have known sooner. As we spoke more, I accessed in their story a voice of self-blame about what had happened. Essentially, it was like they were saying, "I got hurt by someone I trusted, but it's my fault because I chose to trust them." By the end of our conversation, I was acknowledging this self-blame I had noticed and found myself disputing it a bit. It felt familiar, like I'd heard other friends talk in the same way before. There's always been something about it that I've found difficult to accept. On paper, it makes perfect, rational sense. There's a sound logic to it. I can't control what others do with my trust, but I can control where I put my trust. If I don't put my trust outside my control, I can't get hurt. If I put my trust in someone and they break it, it's my fault for putting it in that precarious place. I value being logical, but it's not always enough on its own. Take for instance how Dead by Daylight is balanced. Let's suppose that the developers typically strive for about a 50% kill rate across the killer roster, maybe a bit more. So logically, they could just make a killer who, as soon as they spawn in, kills 2 survivors before they can move, but can't damage the remaining 2. Like if Thanos from the MCU is a killer, and he just snaps his fingers at the start, turns 2 survivors to dust, and then warps to some alien planet and lives on a little farm. I'm not going to act like that's a great or even relevant point or argument necessarily, but there is something to it, I think, when it comes to exemplifying the limitations of logic in decision making. At the very least, just consider the value of nuance in life. The thing is, I don't believe anybody is born distrustful. In fact, I believe the opposite is true. When we're born, we must trust in people. We can't feed or defend ourselves. We need to be looked after by people until we're grown enough to look after ourselves. There's no one agreed upon measurement or moment in our development when we universally reach such a point. Growing up in Australia, I guess I thought of turning 18 as the intended or right time, because it's when you're legally considered an adult and you can get your full kangaroo license. In any case, I think it's an unfortunate thing when a child has the trust they were born with broken so soon. It's the basis of attachment theory, essentially. How our first needs are attended by our caregivers informs how readily we may trust in later relationships. The point I'm trying to make is that we are born trusting and have no reason to be distrusting until we have experienced the hurt of broken trust. After that, there's no going back. Even if we try to forget, our brain and our nervous systems remember, and they've learned how to scan our environment for the same danger everywhere we go now. If you've ever played Killer in Dead by Daylight, for instance, have you found yourself waiting for a survivor to use Dead Hard, only to find they didn't have it? The possibility of the trick you once fell for creates vigilance, but there's always uncertainty about whether it was needed. Have you ever heard the saying, "Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me"? I think there is value in the idea that we can and should learn from mistakes in relationships, but here's the rub. That saying is about one fooler, and no 2 relationships are the same. If I swing into Dead Hard against a survivor early in a match, and then do it again later, then maybe I should have known better than to swing the second time. If I have my trust broken by someone, and then I give them my trust again, then sure, I think it's valuable to consider what role I might be playing in putting my trust somewhere precarious. However, if I meet someone new and know little about them, then I should have no idea what they might do with my trust. In this way, they are simultaneously the most and least trustworthy person I have ever met. They hold the potential to make me the safest I have ever been, or to cause more damage to me than ever before. How much I trust them then, or how willing I am to give them my trust, or perhaps how much of it I will give, is not informed by them as an individual, but by me and my past experiences. My memories will affect how it feels in the present moment to trust someone new, especially if I have experienced firsthand the potential damage that can occur as a result. I say that to frame the giving of my trust to others as a choice, and to discipline myself not to make that choice, is a means of self-preservation and protection informed by past hurt. I say also, though, that if somebody betrays my trust, falls short of expectations they built within me, were inauthentic, caused damage or hurt, that it wasn't something I could control. It wasn't my fault. For this to work, though, we must suppose that there is something essential, or at the very least beneficial, to be gained from trusting others. Or perhaps giving our trust to others is like playing Russian roulette, where there is little to no benefit to being a winner, only a deficit to losing. But I ask you then, why did you give your trust in the first place? I do believe that we are born to connect, to seek closeness, that we make our greatest meaning of our existence with others, not alone. Otherwise, what are we doing? What is the point of anything? But protection and self-preservation are so valuable too, and there's really no objective or certain way to predict who will betray our trust if we give it readily. A distrustful person, or a person who knows the pain of betrayal, will always be able to find a reason or evidence not to trust. They might habitually look for it in everyone they meet, regardless of those people's intentions or actions. If someone consistently acts in a way that is trustworthy, it might still all be a big trick leading up to the betrayal. If ever a real or concrete piece of evidence is presented, no matter how accidental or small, there can be this aha moment, like I knew it all along. I'm reminded of a quote from the game Returnal. If they shine a light at me, they'll see the shadow they expect every time. To me, this line is about when people have a narrative that precedes and warps their interpretation of the world around them. If I navigate life with the narrative or belief that anybody and everybody will hurt me given the chance, then I will manifest it. I will live with heightened sensitivity to hurt, and the meaning I make of phenomena in the world around me will be informed by this fear. Because I am expecting it to happen, it will happen. I might even create scenarios where others are tested, so I can see if they will reveal themselves as untrustworthy. So we come full circle. I mustn't give my trust to anybody, and if I do, and I get hurt, it should have been what I expected, and I'm to blame. I don't mean to pry from anyone's view or belief. On reflection, I wonder if how I spoke with my friend was even appropriate, despite my best intentions. There's no use in disputing it, but there is value in acknowledging it. It seems to me, though, that the self-blame, when it emerges, is a secondary issue, a side effect, or perhaps a symptom, of a distrustful way of being that is chosen, and for which I say we must take responsibility. When presented alone, or first, I see it as beside the point, or slightly inauthentic, or nondescriptive. Really, you're betrayed, hurt, and possibly scared or afraid. The assignment of blame to self is a conscious narrative invented afterwards. And it's okay to be hurt and afraid. What else are you supposed to be when you've had your trust broken? All I can offer is empathy and acceptance. I say, it must be so difficult for you to be close to others and to me. It seems like you'd like to be able to connect and be close, but something warns you not to. To allow yourself to trust the way you would like, you'd have to ignore that warning. If you did, or when you try though, it fills you with fear. The fear keeps you safe, but it also keeps you isolated. Ultimately, conceptualizing trust in a logical or calculated way, as something that I choose to give or withhold, is a slightly inauthentic narrative created in the interest of safety, but at the cost of important human needs for closeness and connection. It is human to trust. We are born trusting. I hope you won't spend your entire life trying not to be human.